I've I've been accused of worse. I'm gonna go see if I can't remember. I'm gonna go see if I have a beer real quick, or do we have to go? This is y'all's. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Smokin Tabacco Show. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokinTobacco.com, and I am joined once again by my beautiful fiancée, the Smokin' Nicole. Mr. Jonathan M. Carney is not with us tonight as he prepares for his coming nuptials in the next few days. But what we do have with us is perhaps my favorite bear in the whole world. It's Bear Duplisea of El Oso Fumar Takes. What's up, Bear?
Oh, good evening. Good evening to the lovely couple. So much for being the favorite bear. I mean, is there really any other competition? I mean, in terms of being like the best bear that's out there?
No. You know, I mean, what do you got? You got polar bears, you got grizzly bears, you got Yogi Bear, you got Smokey the Bear.
A legend. Those are legends, yeah. The Coca-Cola bear.
The Coca-Cola bear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. So.
What other famous bears are there?
So there's a lot of bears better than me, but that's cool. That's cool.
I didn't say they were better. Those are the other bears in existence.
Yeah.
Right. No, but I'm still your favorite, so it doesn't really matter. So that's good company that I'm keeping, though.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, my cigar went out.
Oh God, don't let that happen.
Which, you know what? Since we're here, let's do it before we get into getting all about what makes Bear tick. What are you smoking tonight? You're our guest. I'll let you go first.
Well, actually, I love to do this bit sometimes. And
I know what you're doing.
I usually do it on the Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition, but I thought I'd bring that over to some Smokin Tabacco and let you guys pick my cigar for me.
Oh, I know this game. I've played this game before. All right.
So I've got a Room 101 Farce, Connecticut, the Super Toro.
All right. Well, I already have my selection.
I have the Oliva V, Serie V Lancero.
Fair enough.
And I've got an Avo Nicaraguan Fogata Robusto.
So the second two are really good. I've had both of them, and they're very good. But I'm going with Room 101.
Okay. Does Nicole get a vote, or are you just going to go ahead and veto her vote and just say that's what I'm smoking?
I'm pulling my veto on this one.
Oh, wow. But for what it's worth, Nicole, I cared what you thought about. So
Thanks.
Wow, what would you have picked anyway?
I probably would have picked the Room 101.
Yeah, so I mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Well, I am smoking. So I have something a little different. I'm smoking a Diamond Crown Black Diamond from the Toast Across America pack 2017. This was the much longer like Hemingway, which I don't think is a regular release shape. I think that was only done for the Toast packet from Coop. So this has been around for a couple of years now, and it's really good. I'm really enjoying this. Much longer smoke. Our friends at twoguyscigars.com do carry Diamond Crowned as well as all products from J.C. Newman, who is now a part of Smokin Tabacco, as we are from the. It's not official. I didn't say it because like it's not all together yet because we're still like.
It's official.
Well,
it's August 1st.
It's official, but we don't have the backdrop yet, so it's like I was trying to wait till that was there to kind of do like the full like grand announcement, like not like announcement, but like the intro with it, because I don't know. But this is the J.C. Newman Cigar Studios. Yep. For those of you guys who don't know. So, for our friends at J.C. Newman, I decided to smoke a Black Diamond. And I found this one in my humidor, and I said, oh, that's a really good one. So, I'm going to grab that. Our friends at twoguyscigars.com do carry the regular Vitolas and sizes and whatnot in the Black Diamond line, as well as all the other cigars from Diamond Crown, including my personal favorite, the Julius Caesar, which I think is... that's got to be in my top 5 cigars. I mean, I love that cigar. I really do. It's I think the first Diamond Crown J.C. Newman that I had. It's the first cigar I had from them, and it blew me away.
Oh, really? It was your first J.C. Newman?
That was my first J.C. Newman. Yeah.
Like not Brickhouse, not Quorum.
No.
You went straight to the top.
Well, I mean, years ago when I was first becoming a cigar smoker, I mean, as most do. You know, you don't know, and you just, you know, people recommend stuff and you try stuff. And someone had recommended that to me, actually at Two Guys Smoke Shop, and I said yeah, and I lit that up and I loved it. I thought it was a great cigar. And to this day, it's still one of my favorites. I love that cigar so much.
Here's a question for Bear. What was your first bougie cigar?
What was my first what cigar?
Bougie. Fancy. You said
Fancy.
that Julius Caesar was up there. So
Fancy.
what do you consider the first cigar that you had that was fancy?
Well, I mean, fancy for me. I mean, when I first started out, was anything like over like $3. I mean, so I mean, the ceiling was pretty low, to begin with. No, I have two stories with that. I think the first one was probably. I mean, the first one really is my first true like premium boutique cigar experience, which was La Flor Dominicana. You know, too bad John can't be here. And that was, you know, when I was 18 years old. I was a freshman in college, and I stumbled my way into an event asking for a Romeo and Juliet because I thought I was just so cool. Nothing wrong with Romeo and Juliets, but that was like what everyone talked about when you talked about cigars that weren't like gas station stuff. I went into my very first premium cigar shop, stumbled into a La Flor Dominicana event, and I was handed a single Ligero, not mind you, double Ligero yet, single Ligero, La Flor Dominicana, and that thing just kicked my ass, and it was glorious, and I loved every moment of it, and I went back for another like 2 days later. It was beautiful. Yeah, so that, I mean, that's probably like my first like, because even at the time, I think they were retailing. This was 2002. Dating myself here. This was 2002, and I'm pretty sure they were probably retailing at the time for like $7 or $8, which was pretty pricey, you know, up there for a college kid.
Right.
So, but I think the one like $25+ cigar, the first one I ever had, was probably my experience with the Opus Lost City.
Really?
Yeah, where I actually paid for it.
Right.
Where I actually paid for it, and that was really cool. It was really cool putting. I mean, because that was a lot of money to burn, literally. But
yeah,
it
literally.
was a really cool experience. Really enjoyed it. I made it akin. It was akin to kind of the experience that I had at Casa Fuente just a few weeks ago with you all, where I smoked the 20th anniversary Opus X for the first time. That blend, and you know, I was around good people. You know, dropped some coin on a cigar, and it was just a great experience.
I believe we all smoked the God's Whisper.
I didn't.
Yeah, the Bellicoso or the Figurado, which is the nondescript disclaimer that you put on anything that's odd shaped.
Yeah.
Figurado.
I think it was because there's the Power of the Dream, and then there's the God's Whisper. I believe we had the God's Whisper. And yeah, the 20th, the Opus Blues, as they're more informally known as, are very good. Very great cigars. And, you know, that was also a great experience that we had. You know, we were all being together finally, you know, at Casa Fuente of all places to smoke it. It was a great time. I even have my, I took home some hardware. I have my Casa Fuente ashtray from Casa Fuente Las Vegas with me. It's funny you bring that up.
There you go.
I know. I'm a sucker for the novelties. I love that shit.
I should have brought my bobblehead.
Oh yeah, we got a couple of them now. We're building a collection. But Nicole, what are you smoking?
I am smoking an Atabey. Delirios.
What's the occasion?
I don't know. I just wanted one.
Wow, Bear. She thinks really highly of you to smoke an Atabey with you as the guest.
Or she could just be really thrilled to be with you, and I just happen to be the byproduct.
So my first cigar, just
True.
so you know, was an Atabey. That's what he gave me to start with.
No, actually, you know what? I wasn't about to say that, so I won't be that cocky. But I do remember you just telling me, either telling that on a show, and then also telling me that again, once. And I was like, I mean, that's some high level. That's some high level. Like, how do you go from there? Like, if you start with that, I mean, how do
Well,
you go from there?
it was like the second time that we actually got together, like after we met and
It's on our
whatnot.
second date.
And I was just smoking a cigar because I was just finally happy to be out of the house and be with other people. And, it's that beginning stage when you're excited with, you're with a new, like, partner, girlfriend, whatever, that first, the honeymoon phase, you're all excited. I was feeling good, so I smoked an Ative. I was in the car, and she just wanted to try it. And I was like,
And then you.
okay, so I gave it to her, and she tried it. It wasn't like, okay, this is going to be your first cigar, try this. It was just kind of like, I was already enjoying this, and she was like, I want to go for it. I'm like, okay, here you go. And that was that. And she
Yeah,
just was lucky that, I guess that was the cigar at the time.
He was smoking a cigar, and he blew me away with his Ative.
Nicole, I'm having a hard time hearing your audio.
Sorry. I don't know. Can you hear me now? Is it better? I had my mic.
I missed something really cool too, because you're obviously having a great time.
What is going on?
She is not really good with the placement of her mic. It needs to be like right here, but she always puts it like down here or like over here or like up here. It's got to be like right here.
Right here.
Right here. But no, she said that I blew her away with my Ative. That's what
Oh, God. Yeah, it would have been better the first time. Damn it, I missed it. That's my fault.
I know, right? Hey, it happens, Yeah, so no, that's just kind of how that came to be. And it could have been any cigar. That was just what I, decided I wanted to take with me when I went out that day, and that's what I took. And that's what she was like, hey, I want. And to her, she didn't know what it was. So to her, it's just a cigar. And she tried it and she loved it. And I'm like, wow, I mean, I hope so. That's a good cigar. So don't expect them to all be that good, as she later figured out. Yeah. But
she really loved your first date when you fucking took her to Del Frisco's. I mean, yeah. So.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly. It's
we should come back here sometime. Yeah. Let me look at my.
Well, we didn't have a first date.
We never really actually had an official first date
until 3-4 months in because of COVID.
Yeah, our first encounters were really just these casual outdoor meetups because of the pandemic situation. So we never really had that I took her to dinner the first time. We never did that. We did, but it wasn't the actual first time. That we did that months later when we actually clearly go to restaurants again. It was oh, okay. And it was kind of weird because it was the first time we went to a restaurant together, but we already knew each other and we'd already been spending a lot of time with each other. So it was just, I don't know. It's just kind of how it was. It was a very weird time, but so yeah, the beginning of our relationship was very unconventional, but we still made it to the same destination. That's all that matters. That's my mentality.
Yeah, I mean, you absolutely. I mean, listen, I think God, it feels like I'm Facebook stalking you guys, but I think I remember that. Wasn't it was it a barbecue joint or what was the first date? The actual first dinner date, y'all went out? Because you documented it, so I'm not being totally creepy here.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know.
No, I don't think it was barbecue. Because it was when restaurants just opened here, so we weren't trying to broadcast it so much because people were still weird about going out to eat.
We didn't want people to trying to shame us for going out to dinner. And I was
the first day, I think you were able to go out to a restaurant. We went out to a restaurant. We were like, people are going to judge us, but we really wanted to go. So.
So maybe I didn't see the first one.
Well, I will say this: we do frequent a particular barbecue restaurant. Or at least one brand. There's a couple locations depending on where we are, but there is a barbecue place that we do frequent, and it is the Smoke Shop Barbecue by Andy Husbands. Is that his name? Yeah. And they have some really killer barbecue, top-notch stuff. They smoke everything in-house, real deal barbecue, not they just cook stuff on the grill. Real smoked meats, burnt ends, briskets, ribs, chickens. They got the cornbread down, they got the slaw down, kind of the whole thing. But what makes it really special for us, as we're big bourbon people, they have a killer whiskey menu.
There you go.
Most of the crazy fun stuff that you can imagine, depending on the time, I guess. But they usually have it. And so that's always fun for us too. I like to tell people I go there for the bourbon, but I stay for the food.
Well, Bear, I have a question for you. What's your number one barbecue meat? Like if you could choose.
Oh, that's a great question.
Especially
So,
being from Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean, I love food. I'm a huge foodie. I love all different types of food, and I'm always willing to try anything and stuff. Barbecue. So I grew up in El Paso, Texas, which is actually West Texas, and a lot of people actually confuse that with not really being Texan, but I am. Have the birth certificate to prove it. I mean, but what I grew up on genuine, authentic Mexican food. That was our jam. But so, as far as like barbecue, it really wasn't part of. I mean, we did it growing up, but it really wasn't like it is over here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, where it's just like a way of life and some stuff. So, as a Texan, you would expect me to say beef, right? So like, either brisket or something like that. But and I do love a good brisket. However, I'm a huge pulled pork fan.
Oh yeah.
I think that if I had to choose, like, if there's a dish that I typically go for when I try out, barbecue restaurants, it's typically pulled pork because I want to see
Ooh.
it.
So it's funny you mentioned that. I took a solo trip to Dallas last year, like right before COVID in January. And I went to the Pecan
Lodge?
Yeah.
Pecan Lodge?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I had something called the Hot Mess, which was like a salt crusted sweet potato with pulled pork. And it was absolutely delicious.
Pecan Lodge is pretty epic.
Yeah.
I had the hot mess once. Not that I wouldn't return back to it, but no, it's a good place. Cadillac Barbecue is really good. Hard Eight. But I'll tell you, the best pulled pork that I've had in my life is from I wouldn't call it a hole in the wall now, because he actually won Guy's Grocery Games. He won an episode of Guy's Grocery Games. So he's actually kind of.
Oh, I think I know who this is. Is it Franklin?
No, that's down in Austin. This guy's his name is Rosacco, and the place is called Rosacco's, and he does Cajun food and barbecue. So soul food and barbecue is his jam, and he took over like one of those really old school Taco Bells, like the ones that actually look like a mission, that look like a little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he took one of those over and he built it out, and like, I mean, at first it was like just literally some tables, some chairs, but really good food. I mean, really good home style food. And but yeah, best pulled pork in my life. Really unique flavor. He really does it good. He's really proud of his brisket. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be, but he should be much more proud of his pulled pork, because that shit's amazing.
So
Rosacco's.
I'm a huge burnt ends fan. And you haven't been there yet, and I was hoping to bring you to this place when we went to the Barn Smoker that was canceled, which we'll get into a little bit later. But I can't call Bear my favorite Bear, because this place is called Bear's Barbecue. Actually, I'm not kidding.
See,
and
Nicole's
it's in Connecticut. And their burnt ends, amazing. Phenomenal. They have like 3 locations near Hartford and like Windsor, and it's right around where the Barn Smoker was going to be. And now I'm bummed.
Yeah.
I mean, we could drive the hour and a half to just get that barbecue. I was
like, you could just go.
I know.
It's that good.
It is.
Well, when you guys come to Dallas-Fort Worth, so the place in Fort Worth you ought to check out. If you're a burnt ends fan, you got to check out Heim Barbecue. It's on Magnolia in Fort Worth. Epic burnt ends. Fred Rui approved. So
okay.
Oh, that's the gold standard right there. That's the gold standard. If Fred Rui approved it, that made me feel good. I'm being serious too. I've always wanted to come to Texas. I have so many more reasons to now. But
the only reason you need sitting right here, but
yeah, I know. That's what changed the game. But no, even like growing up, like I always wanted to go to Texas. And like the barbecue was part of that too. Like I always was like, all right, I really want to experience like the real Texas barbecue in Texas. See if it lives up to the hype.
That's why I took my trip. I had like flight points and a weekend off, and I was like, oh man, no one will travel with me. What do I do? And where do I go? And I was like, you know what? I want good barbecue food. So I went to Dallas for 4 days by myself.
Yeah.
And it was fun. And I took a cheese making class, and I learned to make mozzarella. There's like a cheese place there that does classes. I don't know.
Sounds like a hell of a time. We'll have to do that with me in the future. But we have to swing by the Duplisea residence as well. So Bear, also, did we get sidetracked from you? Did you?
We talked about my Atabay.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make sure we didn't take away from that.
How she starts at the top, Matt. She smokes an Atabay. She dates and gets engaged to you. She starts at the top. You know.
I know.
Ooh.
I know, right? It's wow. I don't even know what to say to that. That's she does.
Take the compliment and shut the fuck up. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
I'm gonna have more fun with you on the show than I anticipated. I can already tell. So I don't know. How do I want to start this with Bear? I mean, not a conventional guest, I guess. Again, it's another peer of the media. Let me see. We could talk about Coop because he's not here to defend himself. As much as we love him.
He's probably fucking watching too.
I know I know exactly what he's doing. Him and his wife are watching dinner. It's on in the other room. Although we start a little later, so they might be done now. But it's on in the other room, and they're listening right now. So hello to William and Lisa. We love you guys, and thank you for listening as always. Coop, Saturday night. Be ready, buddy. Spare notes.
Spare pods.
No, I mean you. Obviously, your accomplishment has been Oso Fumar takes, but you are a part of the cigar Coop team as well, and you've done some really good stuff with him and some of the other guys that are kind of involved with him, and but I don't think our audience or maybe anyone who just doesn't follow you in general knows a little bit much about Oso Fumar. So how exactly did you start? For the audience who doesn't know, tell us a little bit about how did you start Oso Fumar? Was that kind of before your days with Coop? Or were you with Coop and then you kind of did your own thing? Like how did you really get into the media aspect of the industry?
Great question. I appreciate, and first of all, I thank you again. Appreciate the opportunity to be a guest on your show. I usually always catch the replay, and so I don't comment as much on replays because it's like there's no interaction here for me, so I'll just comment to myself in my head. But I assure you I do watch the replay. But no, I appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully some of your audience will be drawn to what I do as well. So that'll be interesting. So I actually started doing videos in the humidor at Michael's Tobacco of Euless and Michael's Tobacco of Keller, which is where I work retail part-time, and before the pandemic and everything. And I started just doing, I was really empowered by my general manager and the owner, Mike Peacock and Tracy Spence, and they were like, well, we want to try and things of engagement, like try to pursue different engagements. So I came to the table with some ideas, and they liked the video idea, and so I started doing videos, educational, entertaining, just engaging with our patrons online. And it was one weekend. It was the Baseball Hall of Fame vote had happened, and some players had gotten in, and I was like, hey, Tracy, why don't you talk about, because I told my general manager to do it, and I ended up doing, which was like the twist of fate, because I said I wanted him to pick some cigar Hall of Famers. He's like, I can't do it, man. I'll piss too many people off if I pick it. You should do it. I'm like, okay. So I was like, well, here's who would be my first ballot Hall of Famers in a cigar Hall of Fame if I was creating one. And Coop and I had kind of followed each other on social media, merely acquaintances. And he caught the video. He was like, this is great, this is terrific. And we were kind of messaging back and forth, and I kind of said, half joking, well, is it good enough to be on one of your many shows? Because at the time he was doing like Smooth Draws Radio, KMA, Stogie Geeks, and he had Cigar Coop, of course. And so, and he surprisingly said yes, absolutely. So this is how this transpired. I thought I was going to do a segment on one of his shows. I didn't know which, just to talk about Cigar Hall of Fame stuff.
Right.
I ended up doing a show, an entire show. Halfway through the interview, he says, "We're going to have you back." And I said, "Fantastic." At the end of the interview, well, actually, a day after the interview, I had a job as a co-host of Cigar Coop Primetime Special Edition. So that's how it all got started. We did a few months of that. We went down to Florida together, covered La Zona Palooza that year. And I said, "Hey, Coop, what would you think if I launched my own show? Oso Fumar Takes. This is what the concept would be. And I could get some guests right now here this weekend." And he's like, "That's fantastic." And he threw in with me, helped me get up off the grounds, and been doing that ever since. So for those who don't know Cigar Coop, I don't know where the hell you've been living, but the guy's like everywhere. And he's on Spare Parts. I mean, Spare Notes. So your audience should know Coop. But
That's right. They know him.
And he was on the 1 year anniversary show, which was pretty cool.
It wasn't just cool. It was
Matt Booth cool.
It was enchanting, to say the least. I think Coop would agree with that too. He'd be like, "Yep, I'm good with that verbiage." Yeah, no, it was a good time. Yeah, he'd been on the show by himself, kind of in the beginning. It's funny. So my introduction to Coop, and he's like every time it comes up, and I feel so bad because I think he still feels bad, and I'm like, "Coop, I don't care anymore. It's fine." It was kind of like he gave me a rude response on Facebook, and so if you don't, all right. So I don't know who knows the story and who doesn't, but sometimes
I don't think you've told it.
Sometimes it kind of comes up. The story doesn't come up, but the interaction is mentioned, and then you hear Coop go, which, by the again, I'm really sorry, and I'm like, "Coop, don't do this again. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We're all good. We've done so much good stuff together as friends. I don't care. It's fine." It's I can tell he's upset, and I feel bad, but I'm like, "Dude, don't feel bad anymore. It's okay." So when the show first started, and naturally, especially with social media, just trying to promote it and push it everywhere that I could, just trying to get some attention to it. I think I had shared it to him or sent it to him on Facebook Messenger or something. And it was so show started May Day Eve, so It was April 30th. So I think it was probably around end of May, maybe beginning of June. I sent it to him when there was a lot more people who had started stuff during the shutdown or whatever, and I wasn't sending it to him to try to single him out. I was just trying to show people hey, I'm here, and I can't remember what I said word for word, but it was.
Dude, wasn't it just why are you sending
No,
this?
it was along the lines of he said, "Why am I getting this? Do you know that you're directly competing with my show? Blah 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 blah," and I just was like. I remember seeing it, and I was like, I felt bad. I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything. I didn't mean any harm. I was just trying to share it or whatever. And so I was like, Cigar Coop doesn't like me. And I left it alone. And then I think it was around
December.
It was around November, December.
Yeah.
I had reached out to him kind of with my little white flag, and I was like, "Hi, Cigar Coop. I know that you're probably still mad at me, but I'd love it if you came on the show." And I was like, man, I don't know when I'm going to get back. And he sends me this huge message, and he's like, "I am so sorry. I should be embarrassed, and I should not have responded that way, and you don't deserve that. I've been following you guys. You guys do a great job. This whole thing." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Everything's okay." And so he's like, "Yeah, I would love to come on." And it was, and we had him on, and then, I became friends with Coop. And to this day, when it comes up, he's still like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "Coop, it's okay."
It's so weird because
I'm going to give him a hard time.
now the world knows my first interaction with Coop It was like he shut me down, and I was like, I'm not even trying to do anything, and like, I'm like, okay, whatever. But it's all good in the hood now, obviously.
If you remember, he was our first guest on the show of 2021.
He was.
He was.
He was. He was our first guest of 2021, and I believe, if I remember correctly, I'm trying to do a quick think. I think he was our first fellow media member to come on the show.
He was.
Which was very interesting. It was the first time we kind of interviewed someone else of, like, kind of our view. But now it was a great show. And then, it just became friends with Coop, and we have a show together now, and we hung out in Vegas, and I smacked and did the proverbial the touchdown spike with the airport photo contest for Cigar Coop, which I am ineligible to win, but I set a new bar for that contest. So a lot has changed for me and William Cooper, so for the better, which is great. And I love him dearly, and he has been a great friend of, not only me, but to you, Bear, and to a lot of people, Aaron Loomis, Ben Lee, Matt and Garrett, just so many other people, being a sage of advice and wisdom. And I can't thank him enough for the help and the friendship that he's lent to me, as I'm sure you could probably say the same. I mean, he really is a special person. What were you gonna say?
No, absolutely. But yeah, Nicole. No,
she's
Nicole,
like
Well,
frozen.
because
Like
I want to change topics, so.
Oh, all right, that's fine. I mean, we're just.
No,
Coop's
but
awesome.
just
The end.
the end. Bye. Sorry.
All right,
sorry,
Coop, you got your plug. We're moving on.
Well, we're here. We're talking about Bear. Come on. So, I want to know because because I'm nosy. But what has been your favorite show so far that you've done?
Oh man, it's like telling me to pick a favorite.
You can
child.
do a top 3, or if you want to, if that makes you feel better.
Sure. No, listen. I've had some tremendous experiences on the show. I'll say that. And while it's hard to kind of pick a favorite, I'll give you 3 that kind of stand out. I think it's a totally fair question. I think it's just really difficult for any of us. I think if you were asked the same question, I think it'd be really difficult because they're all kind of special in their own way. Even the ones that suck, or their learning experiences, or they're a dumpster fire, and you kind of look back on them and like, oh, that was fantastic. Which leads me to my first most memorable one, which was my 100th take, which was with Pete Johnson. It was my first interview ever with Pete. I wanted to do my 100th episode with somebody, just a banner episode. I wanted to get somebody,
Someone special.
Yeah, someone special. And it was Pete's first time on my show. It was my first time to ever really interview Pete. I've had conversations with him very, very briefly. But Pete saved my life that night because that was a total dumpster fire of a show. So we get on the air. There's a thunderstorm going on outside. Knocks out my electricity. And so I'm dead in the water. And I'm like, holy crap. And at the time, like I was like, okay, thinking really quickly, like, what do I do? And so I had nothing. I didn't have email on my phone, so I couldn't get the link or anything. And I didn't have Zoom on my phone, so I was trying to download Zoom into it. And then I remembered that I could dial in. I remembered one of the phone numbers I can dial in with. So I call Coop to get the meeting ID. Call into my own show. This all takes 8-10 minutes maybe. It's a long time. Meanwhile, Pete's like, where'd Bear go? And there's a few moments of dead air, but Pete's just kind of, I literally left him hanging. And he starts to realize that it's still live on Facebook. And so he's actually reading questions and starts answering from the Q&A from the chat, and it was awesome stuff. And,
the fact that he just picked it up and rolled with it, knowing like, oh shit, something's happening, but like I'm just gonna
with no prep. Like I never.
Yep.
Now I prep every guest. I'm like, hey, by the way, this could happen, and it's happened. It's happened twice again. In less than 200 episodes, it's happened 3 times. But happened with Jack Tarano, and then it happened with the gentleman from McAuliffe, Dan Thompson and Andy Yaffe.
Ooh.
And they're pros.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So,
they're experienced.
Yeah, and that was, and then I had warned Jack about it too, and Jack, picked up and rolled with it too. So, but that was probably one of the most memorable was Pete Johnson's dumpster fire of a 100 take, and nothing to do with Pete. He was brilliant. He saved my life that night. So that was really great. I kept it in. I didn't edit it out. I wanted to keep the memory. I could have easily done that for the podcast portion, but I was like, no, I owned it and put it in there. But the second one, and this is still to this day, even though it was pretty early on, I think it was in the 20s. I can't remember the exact take now. I'm not like Coop. I don't have an eidetic memory with all my episode numbers. But I have a fabulous memory, but I just don't have that. But it was my first interview with Miguel Chodell. Miguel and I had never met. We had only spoken over Facebook Messenger. And I got him on to do a show. And we immediately found a kinship with baseball. We have this love of history. Specifically that night we found out how much we love presidential history. And we really hit it off, and I found a friend for life. Like we're good friends now. It's crazy. And it all started with I wanted to get him on my show to ask him some specific questions about his journey that I was just really interested in because I had heard him do an interview with Coop, of course. And I was like, hey, I really want to have a conversation with you, and that was it. So it was beautiful, and it was excellent chemistry right off the bat, and it was terrific. And then my third one, and I think honestly from an interviewing perspective, it might be my finest work. I'm really proud of it. I accomplished everything I wanted out of the interview, and my guest was brilliant, and that was Alan Rubin of Alec and Bradley. And I'm not saying that just because his company's name's behind me. I have always wanted to interview him because I've had such admiration for Alan for what he's built and what he's become, and the very public trials and tribulations that his company has had. He's a father of sons. I'm a father of sons. So there's this thing that there were just so many things I always wanted to ask him that I wanted to dive deeper in, and I got to do that in that show. And it's to me, it's as an interviewer, in my opinion, it's my finest work.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, Bear, one of the things that, it means a lot to me, with everything that I do, is the passion, that we have, for what we do. And I think it's very easy to say that you have that too. You have that passion, and, and you're very, you're passionate about what you do, on your own or with anybody in the cigar industry. And I know this is something that you're passionate about as a whole. And to see you, tell those stories, like, I can see and I can feel the emotion behind that too. And I know what it's like to do big shows, do shows that kind of fall off the rails, to feel accomplished. Even when it's it doesn't necessarily have to be someone huge.
No.
It just has to be a show that went well, and or that you feel was a good show that you're proud of. And it doesn't matter what it is or who it is. It's about that experience. You talk about your 100th take and, Pete Johnson being on and things kind of went a little hairy there, and Pete picks up that was still a good show because that's a cool show and that's a great story. And now you have that story to tell, you know what I mean? So it's really nice to hear that, you know what I mean? It's something I can relate to, we've been there ourselves. And as well as I'm sure a lot of other, people have. Coop's probably been there. You know what I mean?
Dumpster fires. Yeah.
Dumpster fires, or whether it's the dumpster fire or it's that epic show that's gone down. You got your anniversary show where you got Matt Booth, just making Coop sit there and giggle for an hour and a half.
I love interviewing Matt. Coop gives me so much shit because, when Matt and I have conversations, it's different. He's still wacky, he's still crazy, but he's like, no, he's not on that same level, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I think it's because I just don't. I've known Matt for and in fairness, Coop's known Matt for longer than I have. But I mean, I'm comfortable with Matt and who Matt is, and it just doesn't rattle me anymore. And so I just kind of go with it. And I mean, I know like the next time I have him on, he's gonna hear all this stuff that Coop's saying, and he's just gonna bring it to like another level, which is fine. I mean, again, that's fine because that's how Matt is, and I wouldn't want to change him for the world because I love him for just who he is. But I relish in my conversations with somebody like Matt because while it's goofy and zany at times, there's a soulful part to Matt that is utterly fascinating, and two, something that people need to understand about him. He's a wonderful man. He's also an amazing father.
He is, and
it's something that I've long admired. Even though my oldest and his son are basically the same age. They're separated by a month and in age, and so they've kind of grown up together but apart. And we've been kind of on this journey of parenthood together and but apart. And it's something I just admire the love and affection that he has for his son.
Yeah, and I've told him this before, when he does his post with his son, I'm like, look, I know you like to have a good time, and I know you joke around and you have fun. You have fun with everything you do, but when you do your posts with your son, like I love that. And for me, like I don't have kids, but for me it's like it's what like I have to look forward to. You know what I mean? Like, I think about having my own son and like being able to do stuff like that. And like, it makes me excited, Nicole and I are on that path, and, in time will take us there, but it's a nice preview of what I, can hope to have with my own kids someday. And so I love seeing that stuff. And I think he's great with it. And, a lot of people know Matt as this wild guy and says some crazy shit. But, deep down, and this is something that it took me some time to figure out and learn for myself, that, he really is someone who is a good person. He genuinely cares about people. He wants to help people, and he knows the value of being kind to people. And, I think that's important for people to know. I mean, you might know Matt as just this real funny guy who owns Room 101 and he's entertaining, and maybe he says some things that just make you go like, what? But at the end of the day, he's a great human being.
100%. Like the condoms and the nipple touches and the dick jokes, like it's all smoke and mirrors, man.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's and that's not even a fair description because it's not an illusion. It's part of his character, and it's part. And when I say character, it's not fake. It's how he is. That's his sense of humor and everything. So, but that's just part of him. But there's a different part to people, and that's what I try to. That's what I try to get on my show specifically is there are stories that I'm really interested in that aren't being told when in traditional media. I feel when it comes to the premium cigar media, and that's not a knock. There's just questions that I would want to ask if I was there, and so I find you asked about my journey into it, and I was like I just want to ask more.
Right.
And so I have the opportunity to, and so I get to have great conversations with, Matt, and, and then another bonding point is we've bonded over our parents who are both suffering from, dementia and onset Alzheimer's and stuff. So,
yeah,
it's weird.
Which is interesting you bring that up because for those who don't know, he's reintroduced at the trade show a few weeks ago, the new Namakubi. Which actually he's donating.
Did you open the box?
I did. And then he yelled at me, and I gave him a look, and he gave me a look, and I said, "Matt, I'm gonna look," and he's like, "Okay." But no, for those who don't know, and this is kind of where like that personal side of him kind of comes out. He's donating a portion of all the sales of Namakubi to an Alzheimer's Foundation in Nevada, I
Keep
believe.
memory alive. Keep memory alive.
Yes. So like again, like he, and that's one of the things like about the cigar industry as a whole, that I love so much is just the way this industry comes together and the family aspect. I mean, most of these manufacturers are family businesses. I mean, you look at Perdomo, Arturo Fuente, Padron. These are all generational family businesses. And then you have, we did for our, we talked about our 1 year anniversary. We raised, over $7,000 for Cigar Family Charitable Foundation. That's like the part that I really love, because it's the coming together. It's like anyone can sit up here with a laptop and try to have a show, become successful. I mean, it's a lot of work and all that, and there's a lot that goes into it. But, it's another thing to take the time and the resources, when you're doing all of that, to go out of your way, or even as a manufacturer, or it's not even just media, anybody, who, can take the time to go out of their way to do stuff like that. And one of the things with Matt that's really interesting, too, is that he is, sorry, I'm getting a bunch of messages from here. Sorry, I got distracted. But it's another great example of just how people in this industry can really just give back and create so much more. But anyway, we're kind of getting off of the path here, because I forgot we do have to hit our news segment. I'm so sorry we've gotten away from this. Our news segment is brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. McAuliffe Cigars become an ambassador today. If you head over to McAuliffeCigars.com, you can sign up, be an ambassador, and get your official ambassador coin and number. So I would say the biggest breaking news of the last 4 hours, really, in the cigar industry is Drew Estate has announced that due to the recent surge in coronavirus cases due to the Delta variant, they have decided to cancel all remaining in-person events for 2021, which do include the Barn Smoker, DE25, and their other in-store events with reps and stuff like that. So, and I think as of August 14th, which is next Friday or Saturday, all of their staff and employees will no longer be going to shops and traveling around, trade shows, anything like that. They'll all kind of be stationed back at home again. It's a tough one to hear. I mean, we feel like we're on the right track here, and we're kind of moving forward, and that just kind of makes us feel like now we're going backwards again. So it's discouraging, to say the least. And not that I'm not putting this against Drew Estate. That's not what I understand they had to make a decision that's really tough.
It's more COVID as a whole.
Yeah, it's as a society, it's unfortunate, but we were supposed to be at Barn Smoker, Connecticut next weekend. We were all excited, and now we get this news, and I just remember like, wow. I mean, that was gonna be a great time. So many people we were gonna get to see and meet up with and kind of reconnect with, and but people got to do what they got to do.
And it's the first company I've heard of, not even just in the cigar industry, and maybe I just live under a rock, so who knows, but that have canceled so many events out through the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really heard of anyone else canceling anything. I reached out to Joe Grove before the show, letting him know, like, hey, I got the news, and that's got to be tough for all you guys over there. I know that's a tough decision to make. So I just want to let you know, like, thinking about you. I know that sucks, and I said I was just a little shocked too, because I don't think I've heard anyone else really cancel anything, and he had pointed out I guess the New York Auto Show was canceled too, which I didn't know about, but it makes me start to think like, okay, like, are we gonna start seeing more stuff like cancel and roll back now? I don't know. Bear, what's your take on this topic?
Well, I mean, like you, I'm disappointed. I mean, it was going to be another time where I was going to get to see you guys and Coop and Loomis, and I was actually the entire Developing Palates team was actually scheduled to come down, so I was going to get to see McTavish and Seth and June for the first time in a couple years, and some other folks as well. And so, Coop and I were actually just talking last night about some plans that we were having to come and that we're going to do. And so he's still scheduled to come that week for for travel. I don't know if that's still going to happen now, but I mean, I'm disappointed. But I mean, at the same time, I understand. You know, that I think that's the thing as individuals, or as the small media entities that we are. It's an easier decision for us one way or another, because it's like, oh, this affects me personally, like,
right,
whatever. Or in my case, me and my family. In your case is, the two of you and your families. But like, the scope is a lot smaller, right?
Right.
But when you run a large organization like True Estate, and large is relative, right? I mean, they're still a small business, definition wise, but there's a lot of folks that do a lot of travel. There's a lot of people that they're responsible for, and they've got to make the best decision, what they feel is the best interest of their people. And I'm sure there's no way this decision came lightly.
No.
And it's just disappointing overall. But it would be interesting. I have no doubt that if Drew Estate was still owned, American owned, that they probably would still come to the decision. I'm interested because Europe tends to be a little bit more conservative and everything. I'm interested if that played into a dynamic, because they're an international company. They have Nicaragua, they have the United States. This is where their main headquarters are. Drew Estate it is, but I don't know if that was a corporate decision too, if it's the entire Swisher International Corporation that's going back into this, or if it's just Drew Estate because of what's going on here in the United States. There's some fascinating facets to this, like some moving parts. Interesting to look into as time will develop and find out.
And I'd be curious. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, again, this is me just asking way too many questions, but.
No, I'm also curious too to see if this is now the standard. There are some other large cigar events slated for the remainder of the year. Are they going to be canceled now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Was the Dortmund, Germany show happening? I don't think it is for this show.
No, but I just mean
Intertabac, yeah, that was canceled. Which again, that's a European thing. So I know it's kind of different in Europe right now than it is here. But yeah, I mean, we just had a trade show a few weeks ago in Las Vegas, and there was a lot of people there. That's already passed, but we were able to get together for that. Now all these Drew Estate events are canceled. And yeah, like Nicole said, I know there's a lot of other events.
There's that other one in Vegas. Why can't I remember the name?
Oh, the big smoke.
The Big Smoke.
The Big Smoke. Yep. That's right. That's another one. That's true.
There's the one in Pennsylvania, and I'm so horrible with the names, but the
Cigar Fest.
Yeah.
Cigar Fest.
Fest so
that's interesting. It's true.
these cigar
I guess we're kind of getting back into a conversation. Yeah, Carlito, who's watching the show with us, it said Big Smokes ? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're at that. I guess after today, I'm back in that chair again, where I'm like, okay, well, Drew Estate decides to pull back on their events. Are we back where we were a little over a year ago, where we're like, oh, what events are going to happen now? I mean, I guess that kind of gets into the whole, the coronavirus conversation on its own. And like Vera said, there's multifacets here. Can we expect to see more stuff now? Well, is Drew Estate going to be the trendsetter for, well, maybe we should pull back our events? Not that, they did anything wrong. That's not the narrative here, to make it clear. They obviously made a decision, and that's fine. They have to do what's best for them as a business. But are they going to set a tone where other companies can feel like, well, you know what? Drew Estate canceled events. Should we think about this too? And then there's a ripple effect.
Oh, they're already thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean,
and if they weren't now.
Yeah, Big Smoke is a cigar aficionado event, and remember, Shanken Media Group's corporate. Remember, Cigar Aficionado wasn't at the trade show, and it wasn't. They weren't boycotting it. They weren't protesting. They were not there because of their corporate bylaws or whatever. Their
For the
corporation
pandemic.
Yeah, the corporation established this. So they were strictly not there for the reasons of the pandemic. So they were. I mean, that was a few weeks ago, guys, and so now there's this surge. Now, I mean, I fully expect Big Smoke to be canceled because.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, you know.
It's just interesting because I know here, if we're just talking about what's going on COVID related, they're talking about, one time showing your vaccination card in a lot of places. I know New York, they've already done that for going out to eat. Like, you have to show it when you go out to eat.
Bringing masks back, obviously, is going to be the next thing.
Yeah, and then bringing masks back, which you can't have a cigar event with masks. Anyway, like, you can't.
Yeah.
Like...
Well, the CDC already recommended that masks are required now in hotbeds. So
right,
basically just major urban areas. So where I'm here in Dallas-Fort Worth, Dallas County and Tarrant County both announced returns to masks for indoors, even if you're vaccinated.
See, they didn't do that here in Boston yet. It's not a mandate, so it's an advisement, but I have a feeling it's going to be going to mandate.
Yeah. Austin, Houston did it. Atlanta did it. Yeah, I mean, we're in a lot of ways we're going backwards, but I think I think it's still progress though, guys, because I mean it might be one step back, but or one step forward and two steps back. It's slowly but surely. Like we've seen where this won't go on forever.
Right. We were able to get. I mean, last year, when we were in the darkest days, we were able to progress to a point where things were open and there was no mask. So, yeah, I mean, we know that it can't last forever. I mean, obviously, you don't want it to come back. You kind of want it to be gone and be done with. So to see it kind of creeping back in, it's like, we just had that taste of fresh air, and that's like, oh, now we're getting going back inside the dungeon. But hopefully, it's not going to be the same as before, obviously, is I think the hope. Maybe things are different now, especially with vaccine rollout and all that. So well, I guess again it's one day at a time, like we said last time. It's one day at a time. We will see what happens, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this does progress and at what point it does kind of peak and then come back down again. So it could be next month, it could be 4 months from now. Last year we talked about 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and here we are a year and a half later. So I don't know. You know what I mean?
How'd that 2 weeks work out? No, that was my favorite. Seth Geis of Developing Palates posted a meme. A lot of people posted this meme, but he posted it, and when I had him on my interview, I interviewed him like a year and a couple months afterwards when we were still very much in the throngs of the pandemic, and the meme was. We can save the world by sitting on our ass and watching television for 2 weeks. Don't fuck this up. And I was like, how do you feel about how that aged, Seth? So, I mean, there's no way for him to tell, but at the time it was a funny crack. But
I saw another one this week, and it was like, I forget what the picture was, but I remember the wording was like, "Welcome to year 2 of 14 days to flatten the curve." So it is what it is. It's kind of beyond our control and whatnot. So, we'll see what happens. That's the best we can do. Hope for the best, really. So Bear, moving on from that, let's. I want to start. I'm trying to start a new segment here on the show, in a way to kind of change things up a little bit. So, we're gonna get into our top
spare change.
Spare change. You're never gonna let the jokes down on that. Coop goofed on it twice, and now it's the running joke, getting the name wrong. No, it's gonna be our top 3 segment. And this week for you, I thought about what I wanted to kind of do with it, and I would say top 3. And this could be. It doesn't have to be like celebrities or anything. It could be like anyone, personally. It could be a celebrity. It could be or a historical figure, whatever. Top 3 most influential people to you personally in your life.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, that's a really good question. Top 3 most influential people. Um, well, let's start off with one, and then we can kind of go from there. I mean, one of the most influential people in my life is my father. Um, as I mentioned earlier, and the people in my audience know, he's unfortunately he's suffering from onset dementia and Alzheimer's, and in a lot of ways, he's not the person that raised me anymore. He's a much different person, and but his influence throughout my life has been in a lot of different ways. There's things that about him, um, that I want to be with all my heart, and there's things that I don't want to be or emulate with all my heart because of him. Um, I am blessed with a lot of his virtues and some of his flaws. Um, but the way I can best describe my father is, and he almost writes his own biography, in a brief sentence, which is, my father was a man, deeply moved by life, with a love for God, his family, and baseball on a sunny afternoon. And he never met a stranger. He was always friendly to anyone and everyone. He's such a giving heart. And we didn't have much growing up. My dad worked hard his entire life to give us the blessings that we had. And but yet he always found things to give. He would always, he never missed an offering plate at church on Sunday. He never missed an opportunity to help somebody in need, and he always gave the most important commodity in the world, which was time. So there's a lot of things and man, he has some quotes. Some bear repeating, some don't, which is an interesting tidbit in itself. I'll probably share some with you offline at some point. But
Absolutely.
But it's interesting when his words echo in my head, because they happen at random times, in life, and that's what when you talk about influence, I mean, that's the I guess the staple is that he throughout your life, throughout your day, in random times, he's the person echoing in your ears. So so I'd have to say my father. My faith has guided me. I don't like to characterize God as a person, but my faith has guided me a lot through my life. I am a Christian, and I'm a very, very bad Christian, but so is every Christian, because we're all flawed, because we're all people. And despite that, God still loves us. But I don't characterize God as a person, so I wouldn't say he was influential. So I'll leave God out of the conversation. Other than the little tidbit I gave him right there. This is a very good question. Who came up with this?
Me.
Okay, this is really good. Nicole, you should have totally taken credit there.
Sorry. All him.
Your honesty. My father, my older sister as well.
Really?
Yeah, my older sister, who we couldn't be more opposites in a lot of ways. She's a Yankee fan, for one. I don't know how the fuck that happened. She works as a registrar at the Whitney Museum in New York. She's worked for the Met in New York. She worked for the Dallas Museum of Art for a long time. She's incredibly brilliant. incredibly brilliant. She has a beautiful soul. She has a wonderful sense of humor. She has the best laugh in history. It is infectious, and it's not obnoxious at the same time. It's crazy how she does that. But she's a wonderful person, and she taught me that there was more to life than a lot of things that I thought as a kid. You know, I mean, I was obsessed with sports growing up. I'm still obsessed with sports, particularly baseball. And but she got me into reading. She got me into art. She got me into philosophy, and she got me into a lot of things that I, if I hadn't had her, I wouldn't have. But the most important thing that she taught me is that when you've given all of yourself, and this could be in anything, in any relationship or any problem, when you've given everything you've got to something and you have nothing left to give, it's okay to say that you have nothing left. And that was a really hard lesson for her to learn. I saw her learn it quite a few times. And she taught me that lesson. And that was really great. She's a beautiful person, and I love her. She's getting married in October, or at least we hope now. She's canceled her wedding 3 times, postponed it 3 times.
Wow.
Because of COVID.
That's tough.
So we're we're hoping she's getting married in October. They finally said fuck it. They finally went and did the courthouse thing. They're finally married. Thank God. Like
well, at least there's that. Yeah, at least there's that. Yeah.
But there's that, and then the third one's probably the toughest.
I didn't realize that this would be so impactful when I came up with
Sorry.
it. I thought it would be like, this guy and this guy.
Yeah,
but
Wayne Gretzky and sorry.
But no, this actually
really got me thinking here.
No, I mean it turned out even better than I thought. Is really what I think I meant to say. I didn't know that it would kind of be this, really special. This is really, really nice stuff that you've mentioned to us in the audience as well. And I didn't mean to stump you either. Like I said,
well, it's not really stump. I think I'll tell you what it is before I answer my third one. Is just so I can say that I answered the question. I don't want to say that I beat around it. I've been very. My mother and my father have told me this throughout my life. I'm blessed. I am blessed with friendship. I have had I've had incredible friends in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Some that I've had lifelong, some that have only been friends for a while, but they were influential in their own right. And so I've been blessed. I've been blessed to have great people around me my entire life. So this is a really difficult question, and it's unfair to a lot of people, a lot of amazing people that I've had in my life, because they really are influential. I would have to say, to answer my third question, we'll just stay with the theme of family, and while I'm married to a beautiful soul in my wife Chris, and she certainly influences me a great deal, I would say that the third most influential person in my life is my older son Jeremiah, because he's taught me so many lessons about everything, a world I didn't know or understand at all, which is parenthood. And he's taught me about kindness. He's taught me about sense of humor. He's taught me more about construction equipment than I'll ever want to fucking know. And he's taught me that you don't need a lot in life to find joy. Because he finds joy in literally, I mean, from the moment he was scooting around on his butt around my kitchen floor, his favorite toy, he had toys all around him, of course, because we spent a lot of money on toys, but why would you do that? Because his favorite toy was a Kleenex box that was empty. So, but hours of joy of playing with an empty Kleenex box. I mean, it's fantastic. It's wonderful what children teach you.
They have crazy imaginations.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
100%. So, and I never give him enough credit for that, and I should probably start to. So now that he's old enough to understand a little bit.
I forget, how old is he?
He just turned 6.
Yeah. It's a special age. We have Cassie with us, Nicole's niece, who she's 7, and she's such a great kid, and just being able to have that experience with someone that age, it's interesting. It's an interesting age, is what I'll say. Just to observe them. They're not like toddlers anymore, but they're not quite at that like preteen era. They still have that imagination and creativity, but they start to kind of pick up on some things in the real world. Maybe they don't understand it, but they pick up on its existence, and they start to kind of figure out a little bit. And it's just interesting to see them kind of grow and react the way they do. So, and again, those are the things I look forward to someday for myself.
Sorry for being so long-winded there. I just
no.
That was a really good question. That's a really good question. So
no,
really
hey,
deep.
No, it's totally cool. I appreciate you opening up and sharing all that with us. That's really special. I've known you for a while now, but I've learned even so much more about you now. It's always special when you have these conversations. I would say my last question for you, before we get towards the end of the show, is one I do want to touch on. And you lightly touched on it, when you're talking about your dad. But and maybe this is kind of a segue back into him a little bit, but I know that baseball is very special to you.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that connection.
Well, it started at an early age. My father played minor league baseball for the Red Sox. The cup of coffee before the cup of coffee. He had a really cool roommates in minor league ball camp that a lot of people probably know. He had a weird last name. I think I'll pronounce it correctly. It was Yastrzemski, Carl Yastrzemski. So
I see what you did there.
You could see who actually made it between them two, because no one knows Bear Duplisea, although they should. But he played minor league ball for the Sox. He grew up playing all kinds of sports in a town outside of a town of Bangor, Maine. My family knows people that are friends with John Carney's family. That's how great the state of Maine is, because that's the nice connection and everything.
Yeah.
I got into it because of him. We were always watching it. And we were always playing in the backyard. I wanted to be a ball player for as long as I could remember. The game's really changed. And my dad, who just played it, he didn't have these camps and these things that even when I was growing up was starting to become a thing. In order to make it, you had to, have a lot of money to really, there's some people that are fortunate enough with just God's talent just to be able to make it and stuff. I didn't have such talent. So, but I love to play and there's nothing more special than putting on a pair of cleats. You got your ball, you have your glove, the smell of leather. Like, it's the whole Field of Dreams, Ray Liotta speech in Field of Dreams. Like, it is the cool of the grass on your feet. It's the way that the lights, if you're ever fortunate enough to play a night game, it's the way that the lights kind of stare into your eye. It's the way that dirt feels when you slide into a bag. Baseball is such a romantic experience, and it's captivating. It's pure teamwork, but there's so many things that the individual has to do to make the team go. It is a phenomenon. It is the world's greatest game. And I always say that. And I was fortunate enough to learn from a man who had a love of it as deep as I do today, and that's why I have it. And it's as much a part of me as anything else I know.
Yeah, baseball is one of those sports that it's hard not to be romantic about baseball. It's America's pastime.
Great quote. Moneyball. Love it.
Moneyball. That's right. Yeah, that's right. See, Bear knows. He knows his baseball. You know, and it's so true in so many ways. You know, it's a lot of history there. You know, I mean, baseball, I mean, that's older than football and basketball and arguably, you know, hockey as well. I mean, it's been around for a very long time. You know, you look at, you know, the history of teams and stuff. I mean, look at the Red Sox history back to the Boston Americans. I mean, they were around 1800s, you know. The oldest hockey teams, if I remember correctly, are like maybe the 1910s, I want to say, is when hockey really started to really
something like that.
professionalize. But I mean, baseball, I mean, there was leagues and organizations before, you know, the 1900s. A lot of history there, and it's a game that has changed. And there's been some bad changes to it, and which are unfortunate, you know, and just kind of that kind of take away from the romance of the game, you know. You know, but you know, growing up in that environment, you know, as some people know, you know, I also have a personal connection to the Boston Red Sox, you know, in Major League Baseball, and growing up around it firsthand, it is special. You know, it's one of the things for me. You know, you talk about like the sensory things. For me, one of the things, it was always, every time we pulled in, it was the smell. That was what it was. It was the smell of the peanuts from the night before, the spilled beer, the cut grass, the dirt. It was like a mixture of smells. It was a very unique smell. It was a bunch of things that came together, and it was the same smell. No matter where you were, when you came into the building, you smelled that smell. You knew where you were, and like you knew you were in baseball's house.
Smell is one of those things that triggers so many memories, right? And the ballpark is no different than that, right? It's the same thing. Like I think we had this conversation. Yes, we did. I think you were there. And if you weren't, I apologize. But it was a conversation we had the night at the trade show, one of the nights at the trade show. And I was talking about how, like, if you go into different cigar shops, like there's a definitive cigar smell, right? Like they smell similar, but every shop is different. It's the mixture of the aromas from the popular cigars that are smoked there, and there's similarities, but there's also differences. And I can tell you that Pop Safari cigar, where I started my career in cigars, smells absolutely definitive from Michael's Tobacco Viewers. Like there's a different aroma when you walk into those two stores, and we were smoking a cigar one night at the trade show, and I lit it up, and then the aromas that was floating around the room, I was like, holy shit, this smells like Pops.
Right.
And I was like, this is incredible. And because the smell transports you back. And like you were talking about with like baseball in particular, it's that mixture of those aromas, whatever it is, that just they instantly transport you to memories. You know, it could be memories of playing, it could be memories of watching. I mean, to this day, I mean, I like beer. I like different kinds of beer. I told you I'm a foodie.
Right.
But my guilty pleasure is Budweiser. And because Budweiser reminds me of baseball games with my father, because the El Paso Diablos was a minor league baseball team, and they had a contract with Bud. And so my dad would drink Budweiser at the game. So that smell of Budweiser smells way different than Bud Light, Miller Light, Coors Light, or any other hazy IPA or whatever the fuck you have. It has a very distinct aroma to me, and I'm instantly transported to watching a baseball game, and my dad teaching me to keep score and pointing and telling me what players are doing, telling me when things are happening. The most uncanny thing that my father had, the most uncanny talent, is this ability to watch sporting events of any kind and call what's about to happen. He does it with everything. He does it with golf. He does it with baseball. He does it with, oh, this is about to happen. Watch this guy hit a home run. And he fucking does it. Oh, he's going to rim that shot out. Oh, that putt's going to go to the left. And it's uncanny. It's absolutely uncanny.
Right.
I mean, Babe Ruth may have called a shot, but my dad's called hundreds.
Yeah. No, it's true. You know, and, you know, watching, like, one person I always like, you know, commentary, Jerry Remy, who unfortunately has stepped away from the Red Sox broadcast booth again to fight lung cancer.
Came back.
Yeah. But watching him call out so many, and there's a lot of good play-by-play, but Remy was always good. He saw a lot. He called a lot of good stuff over the years. He made a lot of good predictions and stuff. It was always nice to watch the games on TV and listen to Remy. He's been a staple of watching games, at home, when you're not there. So him not being in the booth is always, it's never fun. But, yeah.
There's a fun story real quick. So, like, you're talking about the hearing, like Remy and stuff. Like, so I grew up listening to Diablos on radio, and the voice of the Diablos growing up was a man named Matt Hicks, who I later interned for when I went to college.
Oh, nice.
And now he is him and Eric Nadell are the voices of the Texas Rangers. So I can flip on the radio here as a 37-year-old man and hear the same voice that I grew up with and a man I later met and got to know really well.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. And that's the thing about baseball. It's similar to cigars. It's still that old pastime. It's religious in a way, and it's special, and it brings people together within its community, and it's not about it's just about the love of the game. Same thing with cigars. It's about the love of the cigars. Baseball's the love of the game. It brings people together, and I think that's just it's a nice note to end on. As we wrap up the show, and I know that's a big thing for you too, and I wanted to make sure we got to that. But Bear, I wanted to thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
It's been a good show. Nice conversation. We've had a good time. Been looking forward to it for a little while now. But next week we have Mickey Pegg from All Saints Cigars coming on with us. That'll be a good one. Followed by Abe Flores from PDR. The week after that, and so we have some cool stuff coming up on the Smokin Tabacco Show. As for Spare Notes, you can find us again Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, where Coop and I will get into a variety of topics, such as how many sizes are too many in a line, humidity control. I know Coop's got some stuff he wants to talk about, and I got some questions I want to kind of bounce off of him with the audience, cigar pokers,
Ooh,
What's
nice
the
topic.
point?
What's the point? I'm waiting for it because she did that last night on Off the Record. I was like, I'm serving it back up for a second shot. What's the point? So, a couple of cool things, and I'm sure there'll be some other things that come up. So it's always a great conversation with Coop. So make sure you guys tune into the Spare Note series this Saturday night, same place, 9 p.m. Eastern for that show. And
What's going on Sunday?
Yeah, what's
Bear?
going on Sunday? You guys, you got something going on Sunday night? I think.
Oh, always. Yeah. Mickey Pegg, by the way, is a great interview. By the way, I interviewed him last Sunday, so I'm sure you guys will have a unique experience. Mickey's a great guy.
Oh yeah.
No, this week we have this Sunday. If you guys want to tune in, you can tune on to my Facebook page, Oso Fumar. And we go live at 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern. Yes, it's late, but we go on, and I have Ram Rodriguez of El Artista Cigars this
nice.
week, and then next week for our 180th take, we'll have Eddie Guerra of Davidoff.
Nice.
And if some of you think it's too late, just know that falling asleep to the sound of Bear's voice, which I've done so many times, which sounds creepy as hell, is very soothing. So
I mean, it's true. I know it's a little late, especially for us.
I end up falling asleep, Bear, not because of the content, just the time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a lot of times we put on the show, and then it's like, but it's late, so like we're in bed watching the show, and by the time you get to like 11:30, I'm out like a light, and it's happened. But it's
I have my regulars that are really chatty in that first hour and a half, and then suddenly they go quiet. It's because they're not there anymore.
They fall asleep.
They fall asleep. They fall asleep. So yeah, no, guys, make sure you also check out El Oso Fumar. I will promote another show on the show because Bear's a friend and it's a great show. And if you haven't seen it, you absolutely have to. So Bear, again, thank you for coming on the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on all of our platforms: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, as well as follow us on all of the podcast channels wherever podcasts can be downloaded and found. You can find the Smokin Tabacco Show as well as all of these Spare Notes series episodes. So make sure you subscribe to us there as well. And with that, I'm going to wrap up the show. Unless, Nicole, you have anything you want to add to the show?
No, that's it.
That's it. We've covered all the bases.
I
All right,
think we
guys.
did.
Well, thank you for listening at home. Thank you for watching with us tonight, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.